Hey, what's going on, guys? So today we're talking about the best-selling cards under $5 more. This is the Yu-Gi-Oh! Penny Stock Market Watch. It's a big title. I could abbreviate it. It's YPSMW. Madu. Madu. It's a working title. But anyway, these are just the best-selling cards under $5 or less. So we're getting those penny stocks. And what cards? I don't know how this ended up here. There's no way there's any copies under 5. This is a Korean version. Right, so this is not a penny stock. The dual overload version, I think we talked about this last week too. The dual overload version of Swap Frog is no longer a penny stock. So RIP to that. Branded in red, obviously. That's clearly the best deck right now, and we've seen time and time again. If you played this game for more than a year, you know that. I guess it didn't really happen last year because the Spirit Charmer structure deck and the Freezing Chain structure deck, as well as the Egyptian God structure starter decks, were all really really bad as far as just like competitively. But I guess if you play this game for more than 2 years, I'm pretty sure I don't remember the structure checks from 2 years ago. I can't go back that far. I guess I could check, but I'm not gonna do that. It's just the fact that that always happens whenever a structure deck comes out. The cards in the structure deck and the cards related to the structure deck always end up going up. And you see this, here the Albite Strike branded fusion is the only copy of this card. Pot of Extravagance, Ghost Ogre, and Snow Rabbit. These are three of the top 6 best-selling cards under $5, and then branded in red, which is the archetype specific card that they didn't end up getting a reprint for. And so that's why that card's so expensive. So this is very normal, right? But what's going on here? Dinomorphia Kitaringa. Okie dokie. So we got 2 more Dinomorphia bosses with different names. Loses attack equal to your life points. And you can only use one of the following effects once per turn. During the main phase, you can pay half your life points, banish a Dinomorphia normal trap card from your graveyard. This effect becomes that trap's effect when that card is activated. If this card is destroyed by battle, special summon a Dinomorphia monster. Okay. So, I guess it depends on how good the trap cards are. Okay, so this is kind of a not really super budget deck. If we have, this card is sitting at around $3. We got Dinomorphia Thyrsia, it's $25 card. Then we got Dinomorphia Domain. I'm not trying to be mean when I say this, but I've never heard of this archetype before in my entire life. Maybe I gotta stay with the times, I guess, because one of its cards is one of the best-selling cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! At least under $5 or less. Everything else is pennies. I figured it was that kind of deck. Everything else is pennies. So those 3 cards are kind of expensive. So whether or not you want to play the deck is up to you. It doesn't really seem like it's a good archetype. I don't really like the I don't, even though life points don't matter, strategies that customarily force you to lose life points don't work out. It looks like Cosmos is the only deck I can think of that is an exception to that rule. You guys can let me know if there's any other decks that you can think of where you had to pay your life points a lot in the archetype to keep the archetype going. And it was actually competitive literally at any time. Like, I'm talking like, you can go back to like synchro format. You can go back to just like when there was no synchro format. And just like dual like there's just never really been an archetype where you pay life points and it's good. The only time I can think of is Cosmos. Or some like weird like reversal quiz type thing. You know what I mean? Or like something like that, right? I think like last turn or last. I think there's been like an Exodia deck where there's a card where you draw based on how many the difference between your life points. There's been weird cheeky decks like that, but like actually competitive decks, I don't think that ever happens. But whether or not this is a good penny stock, I don't think so. Mostly because this deck is not very good. This deck clearly just came out, and it's really just going to go down in value. Now, if this does end up getting random support to where it ends up being better, then you're gonna wish you bought it. But I mean, there's no such thing as a sure thing either. So if you think that this deck is like close to tier 2 or tier 1, it's not close to tier 1. But if you think this deck is close to tier 2, and could get some support randomly that will make it to tier 2, invest in this card for sure, right? Because there's no such thing as a sure thing, and that goes for both ways. There's no such thing as this card's definitely going to be $5 in 6 months, or this card's definitely going to be $0, in 6 months. None of those things are true. Like you never actually know. It's all speculation. Whether it's MCO 40, Master Swag King, House of Champs, or whoever else is doing the market watch, no one actually knows what the card is going to do. But my best guess is it's not going to do very well. I mean, it's one of the best selling cards on the market, and its market price is higher than its lowest. That's never really the best sign. It's not always bad, but it's not really the best sign. More Albi's Strike structure deck cards. More Albaz cards, polymerization, the alternate art. It's definitely getting rid of a lot. I'm kind of surprised this card isn't starting to at least sort of move up in the last month. It's actually at its lowest spot in its last month. A month ago, it was $2, and not the $1.81. And this is kind of if you guys remember Cyber Dragon Steiger, for those who are like familiar with the show, it was like 2 or 3 months ago. There was like 4,000 copies of Cyber Dragon Steiger on the market, but like one person had like a quarter of those. Like one seller had a quarter of those, and a lot of people had like 1 or 2 of them, right? And what ended up happening with that card is that guy got completely bought out, and the card went up in price immediately after the card went up like 20 cents. It didn't even go up that much. Immediately after the card went up in price, other people started to post their copies undercutting the new price, and I feel like that's what's happening here. Every time this card graces the $2 mark, which is where it's at right now, someone comes in for $1.85. Someone comes in with $1.99, right, or $2 on the dot. So it's not looking like a great investment for the future, but you will notice here it doesn't say all versions, right? So just keep that in mind. Keep your eye on this card. Wouldn't be the worst thing ever if you had a playset, just holding it for later, because. And the light one, too. We can take a look at the light one. I wonder if it's down here. It doesn't appear to be. The light one's just different. The reason for the light one and the dark one being a bit different is just simply due to the fact that there are more archetypes with light and dark monsters. So this is, one, you're going to be able to run it in your decks more often, right? More likely than not. And two, you're going to counter more people with it, right? Because it is light and dark. Like if you got the fire one or the earth one, there's not a lot of fire archetypes. It's not a lot of earth archetypes. Like if you look at just 5 of some of the best decks right now, Prank Kids is a bad example because they have all the different attributes. Eldritch has a light monster, right? And then a bunch of trap cards. Branded has dark monsters. I think the main adventure card is water, right? So that's a water monster. That's a little bit of a counterpoint. And then Phantom Knights, right? Dark. So that's why. And this card, as you can tell here too, it's been going up in value over the last 3 months for quite some time. It's been kind of flattening out, even though it's all over the place. Right here is 265. Right here is 286. It's only 20 cents. It's kind of, like I said, flattening out. Like the overall line is just doing that, which isn't a whole lot, right? So both of the cards could be solid investments going forward. That's all I wanted to mention. But they might get reprints in the Megatons, and that'll completely destroy the value of these cards. So just keep that in mind. Because it really hasn't been moving. Ghost Mourner. Report special on the monster. You can discard this card. Target one of those monsters. Negate its effects until the end of this turn. Also target one. Also, if that monster leaves the field, its controller takes damage equal to its original attack. That's pretty interesting. I don't really hate that. Yeah. Neither does the community. See, this is not flatlining. So this is a good example of a curve that's not flatlining. It was $1.48 a month ago. I would be very wary about this. I would be very wary about this. There's another card. Let me just type in Ghost to see if that works. Um, and this is the other card that I'm gonna search up. I just can't remember its name off the top of my head. There it is. Ghost Sister. Ooh, it's $8. Really? Is the okay? So the Dual Devastator version is still 25 cents. And you can get the premium gold version for literally pennies. But this card as well, I wouldn't trust this card by investing in this card. And there's another one. It's not a penny stock, but we'll talk about this card as well because it's all around the same concept of a deterrent from your opponent special something a lot. Like you have to play around Nibiru. You have to play around. You don't often have to play around Ghost Sister, right? But you have to play around Ghost Mourner as well. Those are cards that are deterrents for special summoning, right? But the greatest deterrent in Yu-Gi-Oh history, that's a hand trap for special summoning, is Maxi, right? And it might come off the next ban list. I actually just did a video about Maxi. You guys can go ahead and check that out. But talking about whether or not it should come off the ban list. But anyway, I would stay clear of anti-special summoning cards until the next ban list, just because if Maxi comes out, no one's playing this card. Because this card is fantastic. It deals damage, which can end up being valuable. It's somewhat of a deterrent depending on what they're playing. Like, obviously, if they summon out, Salmon Great Almirage and you Ghost Mourner it, it has 0 attack, right? But there are other circumstances that could come up. Sometimes Sword Soul will Synchro Climb. You can use this against Sword Soul. They can't really get rid of it. Just different things like that. It's just, like I said, it's a fine card. It's not as good as Maxi, though. Right? So if Maxi comes back, that card good. But you could argue that it will be good with Maxi because it can work in concert with each other. But I just think there's just not going to be enough room for that. I think like Nibiru is probably still a solid investment. I don't know. I don't really want to talk about Nibiru because it's not a penny stock. But I was just talking about this card. It did just randomly pop up, though, and there's a reason for that. And it is a decent card. Right. The other version of Pot of Extravagance, like we talked about last week, is still doing pretty well. Flow Andoris is a magnificent map. Still the only flow card here. I kind of wanted to check this out. I check out Flow Andoris way too much. I kind of want to build the deck, but the juice doesn't seem to be worth the squeeze. Every time I see this deck performing, it just doesn't perform well. Every time I play test with it, either on Master or not on Master Duel because it's not on Master Duel, but on Dueling Book or any apps on my phone and stuff like that, it just always breaks. $8 for M-Pen, and that's $16. And then we look at this card, and you need to run this card. This card's one of the best cards for the deck. And it's just $30. We're already talking about 30 plus 16 is 46. And then the rest of the archetype's probably anywhere from 60 to 100. So we're talking about like 150 for that archetype. That's probably where it's at. It's probably like 100 to 150 is probably how much you're going to spend on Flow Andoris, which isn't bad by any stretch of the imagination, especially in 2022, to adjust for inflation, but it's still not great, right? So just keep that in mind. But if you want to run it, you guys can run it by all means. Fractal, Invocation, doing its thing. Adlib of Despia, and then DD Crow. Let's take a look at DD Crow. I haven't talked about DD Crow a lot on this, but do you notice something about all copies of DD Crow? It's wild that I've never talked about this guy. I don't think I've ever talked about this card on a market watch. Let me take a look at the common dual terminal version. For some reason, everybody just loves dual terminal cards. You guys can let me know why in the comments down below. But I have absolutely no idea. Like mod play dual terminals are gonna run you $6, and I just don't know why. I just don't. I have no idea why. So other than the dual terminal card, all versions of DD Crow, once again, Dual Devastator, we're doing it again. All versions of DD Crow are doing super duper well. Let's just go back to those 5 decks that I was just talking about, right? As far as how DD Crow is against them, right? And I just mentioned 5 random decks. Those aren't the best 5 decks. Maybe those are the best 5 decks. I don't know. But anyway, you look at Branded, for example. There are a lot of good targets for DD Crow. You have to time it correctly. It's really just more of a disruption card at that point, because there are instances, like if you're facing Sky Striker and they play Engage, you could probably just shotgun the DD Crow and just get rid of it. A lot of times, though, when you're playing DD Crow, you want to use it in response. So your opponent's like, I'm going to go get this card out of the graveyard, or I'm going to target this card, and then you just DD Crow it, and there's just interactions where the card doesn't get added to the hand or shuffled back in, or special summon to the field. It's just different things like that, right? You want to use DD Crow usually in response to what your opponent does, but sometimes you can just shotgun it. You look at a deck, like I said, like Branded, that's another deck where it's like, okay, if I DD Crow this card, you're going to be in a bad spot. It's not super great against Branded, though, if I'm being honest with you. Prank Kids, it's okay against. I guess if you banish the Meow Meow Mew, so they can't activate its effect. I can't think of any other interaction, though, against Prank Kids. Like, yes, you could banish one of the little guys, but they usually run at least 2 copies of the little guys, so I don't really see the value in doing that. I believe if you banish the Golden Lord, it's gone for good, right? Or at the very least, it's hard for them to get access to. I haven't played against too much Eldritch because the people I play against are nice. But no, Eldritch is okay. But I'm pretty sure the interaction with DD Crow and the Golden Lord is if it gets banished, you're in a good spot. And I look at Phantom Knights. I mean, like the Graph Seer does get used sometimes. There's a lot of different interaction points with Phantom Knights. You could banish a trap card so they can't summon. You could banish whichever one searches the trap cards. I think it's Boots. You can banish that so they can't search. And then what was the last tech I talked about? I don't remember. Anyway, the point that I'm trying to make with talking about some of the best decks of the format right now, Adventurer as well. I don't really think DD Crow interacts with Adventurer super well. But the point I'm trying to make, DD Crow is a fantastic card against a lot of decks. That was why I was trying to talk about like some of the best decks right now, like Prank Kids, Phantom Knights, Branded, Eldritch. These are some of the best decks right now, right? I talked about Sky Striker just now. These decks are, Dragon Link. DD Crow is great against Dragon Link. DD Crow is great against Tri Brigade, which has seen a resurgence because of its interaction with Branded. I'm trying to think of other archetypes that we've seen a lot. Point I'm trying to make, though, you understand the point that I'm trying to make. Like, this is a fantastic hand trap. 2, it's cheap. It's super cheap. The cheapest version of DD Crows, it's probably the Turbo Pack. No, I don't think so. I don't think it is. There's no way. Yeah, where are Near Mints at? Near Mints are at $5. It's probably going to be the Dual Devastator version one. There's a short print common from the OTS pack. There's no way. Yeah. So we'll just go to the Dual Devastator version, which is what brought us here. Even this version is starting to creep up in price. So if I haven't convinced you to play DD Crow by saying its interaction points with some of the best decks of the format right now, that's fine and understandable. But at the very least, I hope I've convinced you to take a look. And it doesn't even like, okay, you could go with the Dual Devastator version because it is the best selling one if that's what floats your boat. But honestly, they're all sitting at around $3 to $5. So maybe you roll a die, a 3, 6, 9, 11-sided die, or just a 10-sided die, right? And just cut this one out because there's no picture. You roll a 10-sided die and you pick that one. Like, I rolled a 6, so I'm going to buy 3 copies of this card. I rolled a 4, so I'm going to buy 3 copies of this card. Or maybe you just sit down and take a look, see, okay, which one has the least amount of listings. That is actually currently the ultra rare Speed Duel Match of the Millennium version, which is very close to being bought out. This is the only penny stock version of this card. It's very close to being bought out. So that's the point that I'm trying to make, right? To make a short story long, DD Crow is a fantastic investment. It is a super old card that has almost always seen play. It is a fantastic card against everything meta right now. And if you don't, at the very least, don't want to play it, at the very least, I would recommend investing in it, just because I could see all 10 or even 11, even the one with no picture, versions of this card being expensive in 326 spots because I don't see a reprint coming anytime soon. I don't see why. I mean, it's definitely a card that could just be slipped into a structure deck randomly, right? So be on the lookout for that. But who knows how long it's going to be before we get our next structure deck. It took us a very long time to get to the Albat Strike structure deck. We didn't end up getting the Agent structure deck. Or the Dark, it doesn't really seem like we're getting the Dark World structure deck either. If we do get the Dark World structure deck, though, this could be a very good card to be thrown in there. So be on the lookout for that. But I think even if it does come in a structure deck, I don't think it's going to hurt the value too much. But let me know what you guys think. What are the best selling cards that you know under $5? Let me know in those comments down below. Make sure you guys click that like button and that subscribe button to show your support for the channel. But most importantly of all, have a good day.